Have you ever stopped to think about what it means to truly be balanced? In a world that constantly pulls us in different directions, finding equilibrium can often feel like a distant dream. But what if balance isn't a fixed state, but a dynamic process, constantly adjusting to the ever-changing circumstances of our lives? Imagine a tightrope walker, carefully aligning each step to stay upright. Just like them, we too must navigate the fine line of our commitments and passions, our work and our rest. Balance isn't about perfection, it's about finding harmony in the midst of life's chaos. In this video, we'll uncover the layers of what it truly means to live a balanced life. From the daily routines that ground us to the moments of spontaneity that invigorate us, balance is an art form we can all master. So take a deep breath and let's dive into the concept of balance together. What does balance mean to you? Religions, gurus, philosophers, teachers, and maybe even your parents have talked about it to you. Most of us have some sense of what it means to have balance in our lives, but have you considered this more deeply? What in your life is unbalanced? For most people, when they think about balance in life, we tend to have images of calmness, someone meditating in nature or maybe walks in the park. On the other hand, we may think of someone who is unbalanced as unhinged emotionally or living at some extreme. While none of these are incorrect assumptions, these ideas may lead us away from finding balance for ourselves. These images tend to present the prior images as balance while presenting things that stray from these images of calmness as unbalanced. However, different people in different lives can have different roads to balance. It is important to realize that we are all different in what we need and what we need in a particular time. The answers for others are not the same as the answers for ourselves, necessarily. Even more, what is the answer for ourselves at certain times in our lives may not necessarily be the answer at another particular point in our life. When we seek balance, we must first be honest with ourselves. There are many ways in life that we deceive ourselves. We say we enjoy something that maybe we no longer enjoy, but we are too weak to admit it. We think to ourselves that we do not want something to avoid admitting that we do this, to avoid having to face the failure of what this means. We hold a belief that we never hold to the light despite feelings of incongruencies or fundamental differences with its viewpoints. This in itself could be the topic of another video. But for now, we must be honest in how we see the different aspects of our own lives. We then ask ourselves, what in my life is unbalanced? Perhaps it is too much pressure at work. Perhaps it is an out-of-control relationship. These would be some common ones that most people could relate to, but others may find that something quite different is the imbalance. Perhaps it is a feeling that their life is too sedentary. Perhaps it is a feeling that a voice inside is being kept too much in check. In many ways, the answers to the common examples are probably opposite to the answers in the latter examples. As such, the answers may not be the same for different people. Somewhat like Jean-Paul Sartre, with his assertion that each of us must find our own way. We must find our own state of balance that we seek. The classic example of balance is the wise teacher standing still with each foot equidistant from the fulcrum on opposite sides. With little or no effort, the teacher can stand in balance. The argument here, though, is that we are not all the same. Each of us has unique needs and desires. Our personal equilibrium is a reflection of our individuality. It's about finding what works for us and embracing it fully. Personal equilibrium is the state in which all aspects of your life are in harmony, allowing you to function at your best. It's a dynamic state, constantly shifting as you grow and evolve. Imagine your life as a set of scales, with different elements such as work, relationships, health, and personal growth on each side. Achieving personal equilibrium means finding the right balance between these elements so that no single aspect overwhelms the others. But remember, this balance is unique to each individual. What works for one person may not work for another. Consider the various roles you play in your life. You might be a parent, a professional, a friend, and an individual with personal aspirations. Each of these roles demands time and energy, and it's up to you to distribute these resources in a way that feels balanced and fulfilling. In the end, our unique balance is what brings us true happiness. Balance can also be found across a lifetime. If you spent the earlier parts of your life living some extreme version of yourself, perhaps balance for you means all those calm things we mentioned at the beginning of this video. After a life of sex, drugs, and rock and roll, some older pop musicians seem to find peace in practicing yoga or meditating. Some take up painting or another peaceful hobby and seem to find a happiness that they never had in their younger days. Have you ever met someone who had a stressful job most of their life but now seems to find peace in gardening? Conversely, if you lived your earlier life as somewhat of a wallflower or someone who was fearful of expressing yourself, perhaps balance for you now is to be more extroverted, to find the voice that was always there but was afraid to come out. People who were more introverted at one end of life may be more extroverted at the other, and vice versa. Some of these people may be unwittingly trying to achieve balance without knowing why things that they didn't feel drawn to before are now more interesting for them. Lastly, it is important to realize that your solution to your imbalance can become a cause of imbalance later in time. Much like someone standing at one end of the seesaw, a person can find balance by moving toward the middle, but move too far, and the person only becomes unbalanced again on the other side. The silent person can find their voice, but speak too much, and that person is obnoxious, opinionated, or something else undesirable, something else that is imbalanced. One clue to knowing this is examining how natural the energy we expend in maintaining our perceived position or balance. In this way, we are most similar to the more common ideals of balance. The wise person who is calm and down to earth is not much stressed and does not have to expend much stress energy to maintain his or her position because they are balanced. If we find ourselves in a position where we are overly stressed, feel overwhelmed, or just feel unhappy, we are not in a balanced position. Wherever our fulcrum is or wherever our balance is, when we find it, it should feel peaceful to us still. If one is true to oneself, then even when much energy is expended to maintain their balance, it should be as easy as the relaxed acrobat casually standing on the tightrope. Finding your own balance is, well, a deeply personal journey. It requires introspection, patience, and sometimes a bit of trial and error. Each of us has a unique set of circumstances and thus a unique path to achieving harmony in our lives. Finding personal equilibrium is a continuous journey requiring ongoing self-reflection and adjustment, but by being mindful of your needs and priorities, you can create a life that feels balanced and aligned with your true self.